Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome to the live stream. Before we get started, come on in the room, come on in the room. Open up your laptop or in your mobile device. Grab you something to drink, grab you something to eat so we can get in here and have a little chit chat. I'll be with y'all in just a minute. Hola from the west side. Happy Wednesday, happy Wednesday. And I have Uppity Unicorn backstage. But before we get started, I just want to come out here and say hi. Let me come on camera. I am, back. Y'all know I haven't been on because I have been living the autism life with things with my son. I spoke about some of that earlier when I came on and did the test live. Let me fix how we're going to do this. Hold on. Okay, so it'll already be set up. So tonight we are doing a interview with my friend and fellow content creator here on YouTube, Uppity Unicorn. And I've known Uppity Unicorn on the platform before she got the diagnosis. Hold on, what is going on? I've known her since before she got the diagnosis and have watched her in her journey. And so I asked her if she would come and allow us to interview her and for her to just kind of tell her story, because there is not a lot of light shown on the autism community that is melanated, specifically Black. And as I said earlier today, we make up the majority of the autism community worldwide because most people are melanated. But without further ado, I'm going to get Uppity up here and I'm going to turn over to my comments. Hold on, okay, Uppity, I'm going to let you come up here. Hold on. Add her to the stage. Hey, Uppity.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome. It's been a while for us. How have you been?
Yeah, it has. And I've just been watching your little journey in the Huntsville community.
Oh, yeah.
The Love and Marriage Huntsville community. But, tonight I wanted to kind of talk about, and sorry, I'm doing multi things here. Tonight I wanted you to really kind of share about your journey into getting the proper diagnosis and the things that you had to go through in order for to get that, and also to tell how autism has impacted your life before and after the diagnosis. And also, I first tell people about your channel because I want to make sure that they come and support you on your channel. So tell people about your channel and where they can find you first.
Okay, so my primary channel is called Uppity Unicorn. I sort of kind of cover reality TV and social commentary. I have a secondary channel called Uppity NV. That's Uppity NVI. That is Uppity News, Views, and Interviews. I mean, you can find me anywhere. I'll probably drop a link later. I'm also on Instagram as Uppity Unicorn. I do have an account that was hacked, but that's Uppity Unicorn with two N's. They changed the way it was spelled a bit. So I have now a new Instagram that is just Uppity Unicorn. Hey, Mazzy, I'm so happy to see you here. Should I start with? Okay, I will start with seeking a diagnosis.
Yes, let's start with that.
Okay, so when it comes to seeking a diagnosis, I can honestly say this has been a minimum of 5 years in the making because it's hard. It is hard to get a diagnosis as an autistic person
And
when you
especially
are
in Black women.
the hardest, DC, the hardest for Black women. It's difficult for women in general, but most difficult for Black women because all of the signs that are associated with autism in women, in Black women, they say, well, she's got an attitude problem. They want you to be schizophrenic. They want you to have borderline personality disorder. They want you to have a mood disorder. They want you to have anything but autism. They won't give you any recommendations. You have to be an incredible self-advocate for yourself. You have to be faithful to yourself in seeking that diagnosis if you really want it, because it's probably going to take you years. And it took me years.
And to the audience members question, no, uppity is a late diagnosis, which is very common for African American women. Earlier today on Club Shay Shay, Amanda Seal says that she just got diagnosed at age 42. So
yes, and I just got my diagnosis this year. This year. So just like she just got diagnosed this year, I too just got diagnosed this year. And for a while, I just said to myself, because the fight was so tough and it was so uphill, most practitioners they only diagnose people under 18. That's why you hear so much about children with autism. People always think of a child when they think of autism. They never think of adults because there's so much attention on the child, specifically the, colonial descent, mainstream American boy.
Because they forget that it's a lifetime.
Right.
The fact that it's for a lifetime. And see, that's the thing is that autistic children grow up to be autistic adults. And if they don't get a diagnosis as a child, they still are going to struggle unless they're able to kind of figure it out. And that's not the case for everyone. It's because those on the autism spectrum that I have met that are higher functioning, people question whether they really have autism.
Right. They want to be able to see your disability. They want you to be mute. They want you to spin around in circles in public. They want you to have massive meltdowns that look like tantrums. in order to diagnose you in general. But autism in women it's a lot quieter, at least
Yes, and
when it comes to the
they say that
outside.
it's more masked.
Yeah,
It
women
can
are
be
better
masked.
at masking due to oppression.
Hmm.
We are better than boys because obviously we live in a patriarchal society. So our society honors their male gender. So especially if you're a if you're a boy of colonial descent, you can be flapping your arms and spinning in circles in public, and no one's going to be upset. You can be running around the store and picking up things you're not
Yep.
supposed to, and you're not going to get clubbed over the head with a police officer's nightstick. Whereas when you grow up autistic and black, you
Whole
can
different
get,
situation. My son can't wear certain colors. We have to make sure that if he is flapping as an adult, that he make him stop. It's like do something else with your hands, because if some of that looks like it may be a gang sign to someone or whatever.
yeah,
They don't know.
yes, exactly. They think he's throwing up gang signs. They think, I've got a suspicious black man on aisle 5, 6'2", whatever. And now he's a suspect. And Elijah McClain, who was strangled to his end and passed away in a pool of his own vomit, was a 19-year-old autistic young man who played the violin. I mean, the sweetest looking boy you could lay eyes on. And he was obviously he's being followed by these grown men police who are bigger than him, and he's terrified. And so he's reacting like someone who has autism, who was terrified. And they're like, oh, resisting arrest. And he couldn't stop freaking out because of the way his brain is wired. And they took his life from him based on having an autistic response.
Well, and that's part of the problem is that in most police departments, the only training that they get, which is very, very limited, is really to deal with mental health. And they don't separate autism from mental health, and they treat it the same, and it's not the same. And that's part of the problem. Like, for me, everywhere that I live, I have to make sure that my house is tagged. In other words, it's tagged with the police that there is an adult on the autism spectrum that lives at this address. So if they get an accident on 911 call or something, it's an adult with autism that's living at this address.
Right. Honestly,
for his safety.
yes. I have started tagging myself, DC,
Mhm.
and no one told me to. I just started tagging myself from fear. I have a T-shirt that says "Autistic Adult, please be patient." People don't like to accept autism on a Black woman with the way that it looks. They might think we're uppity or we're rude. I mean, my channel is Uppity Unicorn for a number of reasons, and that's one of them. You don't get that compassion. They want you to look a certain way, but women who are autistic, we are wordy. We are intense with our words and descriptions, and sometimes there is this brilliance with language that we don't necessarily have for social cues. And so people are like, well, the broad can read and she can write and she knows what she's talking about. She's got a bigger vocabulary than me, so she must just be being a nuisance and subordinate, when in reality I'll be in a hospital looking for help, and if I don't understand something and I keep asking questions, like is normal for an autistic person to do, because we tend to be thorough, right? We tend to ask many questions until we understand, and sometimes we can even hyperfixate on something, and we develop these special interests. So if I do that at the hospital, I've done that at the hospital, and the next thing I knew, I had 4 big, pale police officers in the room with me because I was questioning a woman of colonial descent about my health care.
Well, we already know what happens with us as black women and our health care. We're at the bottom of the totem pole. They don't believe our pain is real pain.
Nope.
They you know it's a whole nightmare. I mean, in trusting, you know, physicians, which is probably why all my physicians have been black. So
Absolutely. That's a trend everywhere, in and out of being autistic. Even if you're a black woman in tip top shape, there is necessarily medical malpractice when you're dealing in hospitals, just in general. And so when it comes with a disability, especially when that disability is involving, I don't understand, so, or my brain is wired completely different
hmm
than how you are. I got in trouble with this on social media. People would see me do things and ascribe a bad intention to it, because if a neurotypical did it, it's because they want to destroy you, or it's because they're jealous, or it's because it's whatever. Whereas being autistic, I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to get clarity. Why is everybody so mad? And I literally, I don't understand. It gets you bullied, it gets you ostracized. People don't want to deal with you. Amanda Seales talked about a lot of this on her interview, and how some
right,
people don't like her, and they tell her she's uppity. And then she came out as somebody who, she was like, I had incredibly low self-esteem. This whole time people are calling her arrogant and self-important and haughty. She's this person with low self-esteem who just so happens to be brilliant.
yep, yeah, and she talked about, and I also talked about the distinction. They used to have something which they called Asperger's, but that name is gone because that name is also associated with someone who was a follower of Hitler, and
Right.
so we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And then it was also only people who were palm colored would get that diagnosis. So,
Right. They would just leave us out of the entire question.
hmm
um I'm pretty sure there were, like, when we learn about the history of chattel slavery, you never see on the plantation an autistic, captive. You never see one. And it's just like, we have been this way, and we have been punished for being this way, and we have been executed for being this way. And there's a reason why there are so many women in their 30s and 40s finally figuring it out. And it's because we were just beaten. Our parents were afraid of our mouths, because we're asking too many questions. And the palm colored people are like, oh, you're trying to sass me, you're trying to interrupt my class, you're trying to outthink me and outsmart me. And it's just like, I just don't understand why you said the wrong thing, and that's not even on the test, and you're confusing the rest of my 6th grade class. So now I'm expelled because I argued with the teacher. And what I didn't know was an argument. I thought it was just an exchange. I didn't feel, I will see people flustered in a conversation with me, and I'm relaxed. And
right,
I'm like, why that? What's going on? What did I say?
because
And no one could
you
explain
didn't
it.
understand the social cues.
I didn't understand the social cue. It's gotten me in trouble everywhere in my life. Getting back to finding a diagnosis, most places, they do not want to accept insurance for an autism diagnosis, because it's a protected group. There are so many resources that you can get for being autistic, and they
And that's
try to
and that's what I
gatekeep it.
explained, and that was what I was explaining earlier. That was the reason why there are so many women of color that don't get a diagnosis as a child, or and their parents don't know what to do, and people really don't know what to do. I mean, even with my son, I had someone told me exactly what to do, how to get the diagnosis that they knew was his, and that was because he had a very good pediatrician, and she told me exactly what to say and how to say it to get him into the intake as a child. But a lot of times they don't want to do it because it's money. It's the
It's
resources.
money.
They don't want that money going to our kids.
That's right. It's very much there's gatekeeping. So when I would go around for years, by the
Global.
way, looking for a diagnosis, they'd be like, all right, well, that'll be, $15,000. And I'm like, y'all take insurance? They're like, no, not your insurance. And I would go to this place and that place, and I couldn't be seen. And then where there were places that would take my insurance, they were like, how old are you? Nah, we don't diagnose anyone over 21. Well, crap. Well, what do I do then? And
It it
I,
it, be, it becomes about whether you have the money to get the psychologist, to get with a psychologist. And unfortunately, the majority of the psychologists that do the autism diagnosis are child psychologists. They don't have any psychologists, or very, very few, let me just say that deal with adults that have autism. Very
absolutely.
few.
The person who diagnosed me was, or I, not the person who diagnosed me, but the first person to confirm for me that I was autistic was a
Hmm.
psychiatrist who had an autistic daughter, who was a child psychiatrist for about 20 years. And he had one conversation with me, and I was in a state of, so I was an inpatient. I tried to take myself out.
Hmm.
Um, it literally took me trying to take myself off of the planet. It took all of that for someone to say, you are high functioning autistic, just like my daughter.
Mm.
And I'm in my 30s, and I know something is wrong because I keep on ending up here. And
Hmm.
I've been in DC. I've been in therapy since 2013. I think I've said that to you before. I got in therapy
Yeah.
when my son passed away.
Hmm.
The PTSD and the postpartum depression was really difficult for me. So, DC, all these years in therapy, all these
Hmm.
years with counselors, all these years with people who work in this area, and never, never, never did somebody say, I'm going to give you a recommendation for a psychiatrist who diagnoses autism. Now, someone like you, I remember when I first said I was autistic on YouTube, people called me a liar.
Hmm.
Everyone
And I
called me
and
a
I and
liar.
I fought for you,
You
and
were
I
the
told you.
only person, DC, who said, you were like, I'm an autism mom, and I see that bright as day on her.
Hmm.
I
And I
know it
and,
when I
and that's why I told you to find to find a psychologist or a psychiatrist that that would do that would do the diagnosis, to that would give you that diagnosis, because I knew it was difficult, because but there are all of these people that are in their 30s, people who are in their 30s, their 20s, and in their 30s, that are getting diagnosed as adults because they were high functioning and because they fell through the cracks, and there were services that they could have had, but they didn't get because they didn't give them the proper diagnosis, or they would just say that they were hyperactive. They wouldn't say that it was autism, because autism means money.
yes, yes, autism means money.
Hey, Miss Krista.
So, I was in inpatient treatment,
Hmm.
and that was the first time somebody started saying, uh, like there was something on my paperwork that said autistic evaluation recommended.
Hmm.
And with that on my paperwork, I would just go from place to place to place until, I mean, like magic, Sound Health in Seattle, Washington had one slot for one adult left. And after they took me, they were done. When I say they had one slot, I mean they had one. I don't know if they've taken any adults for evaluation since I've been there. And when I would go for my evaluations, because they last for like 3 to 4 months, these evaluations.
Yeah, yeah. It's not as. Come on in, nosy. It's not as simple as it is with children.
Right. It's not like a regular psyche eval. Like it's something different. Like
Nope.
they had me making shapes, trying to memorize things, mixing numbers and words. How are these two things alike? How are these two things similar? Define this word and this word and this word. Then there's this kind of association and that kind of. These are fruits and these are furniture. Just all kind of stuff. Right.
Yep.
All kinds of stuff for months. And
It's crazy because, like I said, they forget that autistic kids become autistic adults, whether they're diagnosed or not. They they it doesn't go away. It's what happens is that a lot of people are able to mask their symptoms, or they find ways to cope so that you can't tell as what they call a neurotypical person. But it doesn't mean that they don't still have whatever, however their brain functions differently, however they think differently, that's still there.
that's still there. And the masking doesn't necessarily make it easier, because the masking leads to burnout. You get so tired of withholding your need to stem, or your need to self-soothe and self-regulate, that by the time you get, I can't keep a job. By the time I would get home from work, from acting normal, all I could do, first of all, for those of you who don't know, less than 15% of autistic adults have a job. Less than 15%, somewhere closer to 10%. Every other autistic adult is unemployed.
That's true. 80. That's what I was. That's what I've said. 85%, and that is that's across the spectrum. That's whether they went to college, have a degree, or not. It doesn't matter, and it's only in the last, I would say, within the last 10 years that they have started to put in the disclosures when you apply for jobs. They put that in there as one of the things that you can disclose if you have autism. Now, I don't know how many people are willing to disclose it, but it's supposed to protect you and for you to not be discriminated against if you say that you have autism.
It's supposed to, but definitely depending on who you are, it may work for you or against you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Black woman who's graduated from 3 colleges. If I want to be a barista and I'm pointing out ways that things can be better, if I'm overperforming on a job, now I'm being targeted by the other baristas who feel a way about my overperformance. And part of the reason I overperform is because in any other case, if I just act like my normal self, you remember on YouTube how many people would call me a weirdo and call me the R word?
Yep.
All the time. So I would have to overwork myself, and this offended people, the excellence of it all. And then I'm in Seattle, so I'm a little chocolate drop in a land full of vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't fit their stereotype, because I'm supposed to be attitudinal and 300 pounds and unattractive and inferior. So it creates a social dynamic where people think
And
I'm
then
condescending.
you're also very tall, Uppity, and so you,
Yes,
as much as you might want to shrink and hide in in the wallpaper, you can't.
I can't hide. I am
Yep.
such a Amazon woman, what I was called growing up. I kind of command attention in a room, and I can't help it.
Exactly, and it's like, and it's what you don't want, but it's what happens.
There's a ton of attention, and it's actually made me, if I can be completely honest, it's made me reclusive.
Yeah, it makes you because it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, I remember. You remember when I first got
Yeah.
on YouTube? People were like, "Oh, she's an attention whore. She's seeking attention, attention, attention," and I'm just like, I just kind of get it. I
Mhm.
just kind of get it. And when I first got on YouTube, my camera was closed. Remember the
Yep.
rumors about me being I'm so ugly and I'm a catfish?
Yep.
My camera was closed because I'm just like, what do I have to prove? And then when I opened it, I
And then
went
when
from
you
being
opened up your
ugly.
camera and they saw that that it was no catfish.
When I wasn't a catfish, I was a whore, and I'm like, I can't win. I should have stayed ugly. Ugly was better than being than being promiscuous.
But see, then you found your own. You found a niche. You found some place where you could just be yourself.
Yes, yes, I have definitely worked myself away from. I don't want to make you cry, and I don't want to make me cry either.
No.
But one of the final wishes of Darren Marion and Mr. Black,
Hmm.
they asked me to leave Igatube alone. They were like, "You were not made for this. You are not cut from this cloth. I need you to stay away from these people."
Hmm.
And one day I woke up and they didn't. And all I could do was honor what they said. And so I am honestly around, even though there's drama in the Huntsville, whatever, there's lots of drama. I've got all kind of strikes on my channel, demonetized until like August, but it's a better group. It's still a better group of people. It's not, I think you watched me go through this stuff where the people were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
had your son lived, he would have been a retarded mother like you," you know. Mr. Uppity didn't die. He ghosted her ass, like all kind of like
It
stuff
was just
about my dead,
crazy.
about my beloved deceased. And so the sector that I'm in now, that does not happen. There are
No,
people who still want.
because you're strictly keeping it on the the show. The show is
Right,
your content. The people on the show and their real lives on and off camera is the content.
right, exactly. Absolutely. Um, and my autism is actually honored in that space.
Hmm.
And I couldn't get that before. There was a certain psychologist who got on his platform and was, because I was
Yeah, I know.
self-diagnosed at the time, and I'm just like,
Yeah, and that was exactly what yeah, he and I got into it as well because you know, I'm like, you don't, this isn't even your field.
mm,
Regardless of whether you have degrees, this is not your field in psychology. This is not your field.
you have zero training to be able to tell me who I is or is not when it comes to
And that was, and the whole thing was is that you were self-diagnosing, but you were seeking to get the professional diagnosis. And that's why I was so glad when you got your professional diagnosis and you were able to be validated in how you had felt.
Yeah, I cried rivers when I got my diagnosis. And so many people expected me to be sad and to be broken. And I was overjoyed because this thing that has gotten me bullied and almost unalived, these people wanted to take me off the planet, the kind of things that they were doing to me. It finally made sense. It finally made me make sense. I was going to all these people who, like that other person, were not qualified to diagnose me. And so, one of the things that happens to African American women a lot is that we get misdiagnosed. Like I was saying earlier, they'll look at
Yep.
my autism signs and be like, borderline personality disorder. They'll look at my autistic meltdowns and be like, mood disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. Well, let's just call her, whatever. And
They
it was
don't
none of that.
they don't want to see how autism presents in women of color because it presents very differently than it presents in anybody else. and it presents differently in women, period, because it is not just women of color who have these late diagnoses. It is women, period,
Mhm.
because typically women, unless they are severely autistic, don't lose their speech, and they are
Yep.
very talkative,
Yes.
and they don't have issues in school. They just a little quirky and certain things,
Hmm.
but it they're not seeing what they think autism is, and that's the reason why it takes so long for girls, period, to get diagnosed. And that's the reason why it appears that there are more boys with it, but we know that's impossible when there's more females in the world.
Yes, exactly. I mean, so many of us are Amanda Seals. So many of us are, well, you're pretty enough. You got straight A's. Go on with your weird self. And it's like, yeah, but my wrists are cut damn near up to the elbow. There's something wrong with me and I don't know what it is. Why do I
Yep.
feel so deeply? Why do I need justice so badly? Why? Like listening to Amanda Seals was like listening to myself talk, from being super de duper black in my values, to seeking justice, to the balancing of scales, to being a lover of words. I'm sure you've heard some of my music. When I was being tortured, I wrote a couple of songs. So we're poets. We do that kind of thing. People look at that and say, "Well, you're gifted," and I'm like, "Okay, but did you know gifted is the other side of special?" I mean, based on how I was feeling in elementary school, this is what happened to me. I can't make it up. One year, they said to my mother, "This is an incredibly gifted girl.
Hmm.
We want you to put her in a school for gifted kids. She's not normal. She's off the charts intelligent."
Hmm.
Another year, they tested me for special ed.
Hey, 6 figure days.
Pardon?
No, in the chat.
Oh,
6 figure days
hey,
is in the
six
chat.
Hey. So it's just interesting that, like,
And
because
see, and that's the thing is that a lot, at least in my experience, even with my son, even though my son is what he's not considered mildly, he's considered, I guess, moderately, not even moderately. He's not severely, but he's somewhere like in the middle. But
Mhm.
his IQ is like over 175.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter what his IQ is, because what he presents is what he presents. And it's like he doesn't understand that, well, they got to know what you know. You can't keep it all to yourself, because then they think you know nothing. You understand nothing.
And there's a lot of pressure in that. And as an autistic person, when I'm pressured to perform, that's when I perform the worst.
Yeah.
I'm like, I used to call myself the WB frog. You know that frog on the Looney Tunes? Hello, my baby.
Yep.
Hello, my honey. And then when you would put it in front of people, it's like, ribbit. My mom would
Yeah.
be like, "You're excellent in private. And in front of people, you clam up. You just, you can't do anything." And there's something about it. There are debilitating feelings, the thoughts that you get in your head, but because the way your brain is wired, those debilitating thoughts or feelings run through your whole body and they have physical manifestations.
Hmm.
So if I can't get out of bed for 3 days, I used to punish myself for that. Now that I know that I'm autistic, I know that that's normal for an autistic person.
Hmm.
I hated myself for years, and I would overwork. Remember, I told you I would be at work overperforming because I would have
Hmm.
those lazy down periods, and I didn't know that it wasn't me being lazy. It was me being overstimulated as an autistic adult. And I punished myself, and I was really hard on myself to the point of having, multiple ideation moments where I felt like, and the thing that hurts about it is that autistic people are very logical. Most of us, even if
Yeah.
we're, into fantasy and whatever, we have logic on our side. And when I would sit down logically without panicking, I would weigh whether or not I should live or not. And it's like, you should just kind of clock out of life, Chocolate. Like it's really not worth it. It's not worth it. And what hurts
And
about that is
I've talked about mental health with the autism community. And again, that's where there's a loss because they don't have a lot of psychiatrists or psychologists that deal with adults with autism. Being able to go to a therapist that specifically deals with people with autism, because they may have some things going on that are mental health things like depression and anxiety, but the reasons that it's going on are not the same reasons as someone who they quote unquote call neurotypical is. And it's not always a chemical imbalance is the reason for it in someone with autism.
absolutely, absolutely. People with autism are, and I want everyone here to hear me. Everyone who's listening, people with autism are 6 times more likely than the rest of the population to commit self-annihilation. And
Yeah,
the average,
I've talked about it. Yeah, and the thing is because they get inside their head. You get inside of your head.
you get inside of your head, and there's also routine bullying that people think is just a part of childhood. And I'm just like, there are some of us who go through things that nobody else is going through, and it's because we're so unique.
Hmm.
And people are just like, suck it up, get over it, everybody goes through it. And it's just like, well, not really. I mean, imagine you have a person who is a danger to children in intimate ways, and you got the loud girl who's going to kick you and scream, and then you've got the autistic girl who's got a speech impediment and who's beaten so much she won't talk. You're going to go and touch that kid and get your rocks off on that kid for years, because she's not going to tell. She doesn't know why people beat her. She doesn't know what's wrong with her, and she feels like she's going to get blamed for what you're doing. And so we are more likely to get abused in every possible way.
Uh-huh.
Every possible way. And our average life expectancy is 40 years old. The average, and I'm not saying like, a certain subset, I'm all autistic people. Our average life expectancy is 40 years old. Because everyone is, autistic children, autistic children. What do you do when autistic children become autistic adults?
Adults. And that's, like for me, I I I have found that I am in the minority in that the first thing that came to my mind was not for my son to leave my home and go to a group home so I could be free because he's grown now, and you know but there is a lot of pressure to consider that because I'm getting older. But I'm like, but I'm completely healthy right now. So why are you talking to me about this? We're not even having this conversation because that I don't trust that setting, even though I know people who have very good ones, but they're the only. But it's like one or two people that I know, and then I hear all the horror stories about what's going on everywhere else.
A horror. The just as a little, it's a little bit of a tangent, not too much, but the guy who struck my channel twice, he used to work in an autism home with a bunch of autistic adults who were 18 and over. And the way he would talk to them, you would swear he was some kind of an overseer on a plantation. And they would just be trying to do simple things like boil some noodles, make some top ramen. and he would yell at them and scream at them and talk to them like they were subhuman. And they think because we express ourselves differently, we don't feel like they feel. But to the
I know.
contrary, autistic people are deeply sensitive. Deeply sensitive. We have an emotional ocean, the depths that go on inside of us. We see something happen to somebody else and we're bawling, crying,
Yep.
let alone when it happens to us.
It's it's crazy. Now you said talk about the different types of jobs that you have had, and have you found anything that you think might be something that you could do that perhaps you could do from home so that you wouldn't have to deal with the being in an office structure? Or are you just have you just kind of given up on doing things outside of what you're doing because you want to do?
I have mostly given up because of the social aspect.
Mhm.
I literally cannot win in social situations. You are a witness to how I am typically treated in social situations. I was a school teacher for about a decade, but I changed the school that I worked at like every other year because I can't get along with this teacher. This other teacher thinks I'm a flirt because I'm always smiling and overdoing it. And I'm overdoing it because I look uppity when I don't overdo it. So I mask, like, hi, it's Uppity Unicorn. I'm so grateful you're here. And
Mhm.
people, oh, she's adorable. And I'm like, really? I kind of have a flat affect and uh, I don't care. I'm thinking about something totally different. And it's like, oh, she's this angry black woman. Whoop de whoop whoop whoop, and I can't escape that. So it's either I'm doing too much or I'm doing not enough.
Mhm.
I get targeted on the job. I get isolated. Um, I was a barista. I would have 9 baristas on the floor, all talking badly about me because someone doesn't like me. I have a pattern where people become really fascinated with me, and then there's this idealization of me, and then a devaluation of me once they realize that I am autistic or my competence varies. Sometimes everything clicks, but based on what I'm going through,
Mhm.
my brain will take a break on me, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
I need to finish this training. Come on, brain. And I can read paragraphs 7, 8, and 9 and 10 times, and I just can't
Oh, thank
do
you
it.
on the spot for the thank you so much for the super chat.
Okay,
On
so
the spot says, "Great topic. Keep up the great work." Thank you so much. Yeah, I am really happy that Uppity came up here because, you know, I'm an autism mom, and I can say how I feel as a parent of someone who's an adult, but I can't give that autistic perspective. And I wanted someone, and I wanted you to come because I know that it's still really fresh with you, having just got the diagnosis, but you have been searching for a diagnosis for years, and I wanted to know how, you know. Now, here's a question. So, do you think if you had gotten the autism diagnosis as a child, do you think that that would have made a difference?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think even my mom feels a way about it because with all the compliments she got concerning me,
Mhm.
I don't think she could tell. My autism was just seen as a behavioral problem. And even if my mom understood me, we got a family full of brothers, or she has a bunch of brothers. So I'd be
Yeah.
beaten, I'd be tossed, thrown, I'd be cursed out. And this is even as a kid. So getting the diagnosis, I cried with joy. Like I saw just like Jesus wept. Like I was so happy to be affirmed in my position about myself,
Hmm.
because so many people wanted to just villainize me. And that happens a lot with people who are autistic. What was the original question? I went a little off.
No, I was no. I was asking you if you thought it would have made a difference if you had gotten
There we go.
a diagnosis as a kid, and you said it did. And then, so my other question is that have you thought of things that you could do from home? Because there's a lot of work from home job, and from the research that I've done, that's easier for a lot of people who are on the spectrum. Like some of those, I don't know if this would be up your alley, like maybe being an online teacher with teaching the people English around the world. Have you ever
You know,
thought
it's
about like
funny you
that?
said that, because I used to be an English teacher. I taught English in Saudi Arabia at a
Hmm.
couple of universities there, and I taught English in Qatar. Um, I think I have experienced a level of burnout where I can't necessarily recover working with others. I I, I try to work alone,
Hmm.
but I gotta be honest, I can't really see myself returning to, because here's what happens to your brain when you
Hmm.
find out people were treating you bad because you're autistic. You get mad. I used to
Yeah.
blame myself for stuff, and I would be like, well, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? And people would lie to me about me. And I'd be like, that can't be true, because this and this happened and this and this happened. Oh, you got an answer for everything, know it all. And I'm like, but it's true. So when you finally get a diagnosis, you rage.
Hmm.
You think about all the ways you were treated, that no treated by your family, that no one ever did that to your sisters,
Hmm.
because they're not, tarded. All the ways you got treated by school teachers who respected other kids and didn't respect you because, you know, they're not special. And you find these things everywhere, and you look over your life and you see it with a new lens, and it's
Hmm.
rage. It's like, how dare you? Like, you made me feel so bad. I mean, you have experience with that, where people are just like, uppity is X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, you treat me like this because I have a deficit. And for me, the rage comes from, I went to school with all kind of people. People
Hmm.
who were, been in wheelchairs since they were, infants, because of how their body is shaped, or they're missing limbs, or they've got cerebral palsy, whatever. And I was always nicer to these people on purpose, because
Hmm.
how could you bully someone with a disability? So when I look back over my life, it's like I have a little mercy with people now. I
Hmm.
used to have a ton of it, and I've swung like a pendulum in the opposite direction.
Mm.
So I try to work alone. I try to do things on my own. Um, I usually have a man in my life who takes care of me. One of the perks of being autistic
Hmm.
is that men think you're cute. Men think your habits are adorable. Sometimes they get, too much with infantilizing you, and
Hmm.
but when men see fragile women, they think, oh, their instincts to protect and provide kind of kick in.
Hmm.
I've got a great extended family, and I
You've
do
got a
work.
good village around you.
I've got a village. I'm lucky in that sense, because a lot of people you see on the street who are homeless, they're neurodivergent and they don't have a village.
Nope.
A lot of them.
And they're off their meds because the meds make them feel a certain kind of way. And you know, that's like another one of the things, like m- my son doesn't take meds. And I guess and that's also something that's not common. And I said, well, that's because y'all put everybody on medication, but nobody's thinking about what the side effects of the medications are, because the medications aren't meant for autism. They're meant for whatever else it was, and you just decided you're going to use it with autism.
That's exactly right. I take Wellbutrin and I take Lexapro. And due to the anxiety I've developed from abuse,
Mhm.
I used to be extroverted, or maybe an ambivert. Like I was a cheerleader, I was always in front of a crowd.
Mhm.
These days, I panic when I have to. I won't leave my house for weeks at a time, DC. For weeks
Mhm.
at a time, I won't see
Wow.
outside unless I open my window because I have such an aversion to interacting because of how people interact with me.
Wow.
It just, when you're autistic, it makes you want to give up because of how people treat you. It makes you just like a recluse or a hermit.
Have you looked into autism support groups in like the Autism Society? Because the Autism Society specifically is autism autistic people run that. That's not the parents, that's not anybody but those on the spectrum. I can participate as a spectator.
That's amazing. I haven't heard of that. The thing that I've been doing.
It's the Autism Society of America, and they have chapters all over the country. And I'm sure because you're in Seattle, and I know there's a lot of people up there who are on the spectrum working at Microsoft.
Oh my goodness, we're the average person at Microsoft and at Amazon. You know something that I wasn't sure I would say tonight. Um, Growing up in this kind of region,
Hmm.
most of my friends, my close friends, have been either Asian or half Asian and black. Most of my
Hmm.
best friends, right, the ones who I spend the night at their house, XYZ. Autism is so common in them, but because they're kind of already reclusive, already quiet, already, like Asian women can be free in their autism because people's like, oh, she's Asian, she's cute, she's quiet. You do that as a black girl and you're suspicious and attitudinal and uppity. But I would end up very compatible with these Asian women and be seen by them. And these would be Asian girls who I have never had a black friend before,
Hmm.
and just love me down, love me to pieces, bring me home to their family who thought black people were this and that. And I came in their lives and changed everything they thought. And they're like, this is the most beautiful person I've ever met.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is that there's a lot of autism in the Asian community, and
Yeah, there is.
that ends up working out to be, I'm all about the math and social whatever. Sometimes it can make people harsh because, social situations and things. It's like, oh, you're emotional. Well, did you get the assignment done? It's due this day. And it's just logic. But
Yeah, because
go ahead.
the show that comes on ABC, The Good Doctor, is based on a show that I believe is either Japanese or Korean, but the character in that version is a
Wow.
woman doctor in the original Good Doctor. She's also autistic, but there's differences in the plot, but it's a woman who's the good doctor in that version of it,
Wow.
in the original version of it, and they made it a male, a white male again
There you go. There you go. There
in,
it
in
is.
in in the American version of it. And they
There it
didn't
is.
even and they didn't even get an actor that is actually on the spectrum.
I think that can be really painful for it's like how African Americans, you have somebody like Cynthia Erivo who played Harriet Tubman, and
Mhm.
this is a Nigerian woman who has made social media comments that are detrimental, and
I have and because of her comments, I haven't even watched her version of that movie. I'm sure
me
it's great,
neither.
but I'll never see it. I'll never know.
I'll never
I'll
know.
never know.
The moment I hear I've been walking, I switch whatever it is off because I'm like, she. I, I won't even get into her
Hey,
because that's a long
hey,
tangent.
1SP.
Hey, official 1SP. But it feels like that sometimes, where you have somebody pretending to be you and exaggerating or making a caricature of you, when it's like, just get an autistic woman. We're great writers. Just
Well,
have us write
there's
into the
another, yeah, there
character.
was another show. There was one other show. One of the characters on there is actually on the spectrum,
Mhm.
and she plays a character. Her character is a girl on the spectrum, and that one, was that one on ABC? I can't remember where that one, what network that one was on. There's only like a couple of shows, and then you have Atypical. I mean, there's like three shows that they've had, and none of them have depicted the autism that I see in the African American community. It's all whitewashed, and because of that, that's the image that they have. They forget about everybody else that has autism.
Absolutely, because autism can look like Amanda Seals. It can look like so many of us are social justice warriors. So many of us are humanitarians, and all they just have kind of one singular view. I mean, sometimes I identify with autistic characters who were not intended, like Wednesday Adams. I remember I sent you a picture of her.
Hmm.
So no one says Wednesday is autistic, but when you look at her character, she is autistic coded. Though
Yeah.
she has a flat affect. Her face is always straight, no matter what she's feeling. She can be excited and have a straight face.
Yep.
Her monotone voice, her resistance to certain colors. Autistic people like their patterns. So if all they want to wear is black, or if all they want to wear is pink, you're gonna upset them if you put them in plaid or argyle, and they're like, damn it, I don't wear that fabric. That fabric, if I touch terry cloth, my God, ooh, like I
Yeah. It's
just,
certain things are a bother. It's like it doesn't
yes,
bother me, but it's like they they don't. My son doesn't like the feel of certain things, and he just won't wear
exactly,
them. He just won't wear it. He doesn't like what it feels like. So it is what it
right,
is.
that. And who else? I Hillary Banks was
Hmm.
never supposed to be like, oh, this is autistic Hillary Banks, but when you look at her, you see lots of the manic pixie dream girl, or kind of bubbly autism. So it's like, if you listen to Hillary talk, she's really smart, but she says really airhead things all the time.
Yep.
When she has inappropriate affect. So when Will first got there from Philadelphia, she walks in and she's like, "Daddy, I need $500." And Aunt Viv is like, "Your cousin Will is here from Philadelphia. Hi, Daddy, I need $500." And it's really, really funny because
Yep.
she's serious as hell. It's funny because she's not trying to be funny,
Yep. She's
but
just.
it's really who
It's
she
like
is.
she doesn't care about him.
Flat
Okay.
affect.
Hi.
Autistic people can be very like hyper
Very
fixated on a
focused.
singular focus, like laser focus. So until I can get this thing out of my way, until I can solve this issue, I'm not multitasking. I gotta just pew, one track mind.
Yep.
um
So
Bones,
okay.
have you
So
seen Bones?
yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
autistic coded.
Yeah. 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 Because the things that Bones, I mean, but she's so smart, and the real person who the character is actually based on, because it's based on a real forensic scientist. A real
Absolutely.
It's a real person that one is based on. But so you say that for you, the best thing would be for you to work alone. So now that you know who you are you, even though you're still, you know, discovering who you are as an autistic woman, but now that you know who you are from that perspective, what do you think would be the perfect career for you now? Because you're still very young. So,
I am. I think that, and I'm not necessarily aspiring to this,
hmm
but I've always been a gifted writer.
hmm
And I think an ideal career for me would be, being another Shonda Rhimes. Because the way that
right.
I can write a character, their background, whatever, like I write easily. Anything, and I win awards for my writing. I win scholarships for my writing. I win study abroad competitions with my writing. All kind of stuff that I've won for writing. Um, Autistic people feel a depth of emotion, so I used to do musical theater, and I was acting. So acting would be a good profession. Basically, I mean, you sometimes find autistic people gravitating towards Hollywood because
hmm
that's what they're good at, as opposed to you put them at Microsoft and it depends. Well, are they on numbers autistic or
And it
are they
depends on how it depends if they're a visual thinker.
exactly.
It really
So
depends. Yeah.
you
Because
might be
everyone who has
Einstein.
autism doesn't think the same. It's like my
No,
son, I know, is a visual thinker. He sees something and he doesn't forget it. Like he has a photographic memory
photographic memory.
for numbers, for phone numbers. All he has to do is see it one time and he never forgets it. He
That's
never
incredible.
forgets it. He never
That is
forgets.
so
It's like
beautiful to me.
I tell people, I'm like, please, 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 I beg you, if you do not want to talk to my son, do not ever let him see your number. Do not ever let him know. And if you have an iPhone, well, he's going to figure out how to hack into it and get your number. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Numbers. I'm often jealous of the people who get the numbers autism
hmm
because I'm like, numbers are the language of the universe. If you want to, that's Nikola Tesla autism. That is Einstein autism. Both of whom were actually autistic, like
Yeah.
not making it up.
Well,
But
yeah,
I'm just like,
we know that Einstein was autistic, but the society that he grew up in at the time that he grew up, that wouldn't have been a diagnosis for him because of his brilliance in certain things and because he
yeah,
didn't show what they consider, quote unquote, again, the spectrum, because people only see the low end of the spectrum, so they don't even think about all of the people that are on. And I don't even like to call it the low or high. It's just people at one end of the spectrum versus people at a different end of the spectrum or a different point. It presents differently. If you have seen one person with autism, you've seen one person with autism.
that's it. That's it. I like how you said point because I think of autism as a spiral. I don't think of it as a straight line
Yeah.
because you might have this thing that a nonverbal person has, but you have this thing that, a hyperlexic or a hyperverbal person has. You might have, you might be really good with words, but number blind. Some
hmm
people with autism can learn several languages, very linguistic, very easily. But if
hmm
you try to take them anywhere past fourth or fifth grade math, they're number blind. They just cannot do it. So there are all, maybe you have, you're a hand flapper, but you also, just whatever. It's like a spiral. So
Yeah.
people say high needs, low needs, but a low needs person with autism can quickly become a high needs person.
Yeah, and that's
Overstimulate
why I'm
them.
like, it you can't even, you can't autism can't be put in a box. This
Nope.
is something that I did want to ask you, because I have been told by a few people who are on the spectrum that adults do not like the puzzle piece to be a reference to themselves because they do not feel, because it's offensive. And so,
Yeah, that's true.
so
Um,
can you explain about that? Explain that as to why, because that it's like that's all they give to be able to put as a symbol for autism. So my question is, no, I mean, I just want you to talk about why it's offensive, because it wasn't created, just for those who are out there. It was not created by people with autism. It was created by parents of people with autism.
that's right. Parents and people who treat autism, and so many people who were involved in this thing that became the puzzle piece were eugenicists. So these are people who would exterminate us if they found, in the womb that there was something you could tell. Or I don't know if you recall ugly laws. Ugly laws used to keep people with disabilities in the house. So these are the people historically who came up with that puzzle piece, as if something is missing from you. A piece of your puzzle is missing, you're not put together. And these are also the people who would try to pray away your autism, try to holy water away, call you a demon because you're nonverbal, or
Mhm.
you walk on your tippy toes, you do repetitive play, or they'd be like, something is wrong with you. It comes from a perspective of the people who chose us, especially Autism Speaks. Autism
Yeah,
Speaks.
and that was, this is my experience with Autism Speaks. When my son was a kid, it was good, for a specific period, time frame. But now that he is an adult, there's really not a lot in Autism Speaks that is for adults on the spectrum, because, and this is my opinion, they're not looking for a way to help adults.
They're looking
They,
for a way to help people who deal with people who have autism. They're not interested in helping autistic people themselves.
no, and they want autistic people, and this is what I've been told by other adults, is that they want the autistic people to stay helpless and to always need their help. They do not want them to become self-sufficient. And so, yeah, a lot of adults do not deal with Autism Speaks. It's really geared towards caregivers, and it's really geared towards caregivers of children. It's not has nothing to do with
Absolutely.
once they're adult. Okay, well, see what you can figure out.
Absolutely. The people with autism, and especially adults with autism, the symbol they have chosen, I put it at the top of the chat, and it's the infinity symbol. And the reason it's the infinity symbol is because there are infinite combinations of autism. And that's why it was so laughable. I mean, you've seen, it's just like what you said earlier. There
Well,
were
that was
people
why I
when,
created my own autism. My little two pieces fitting together versus
right.
some random piece that's out there hanging out there like it doesn't fit into the puzzle. No, I made two pieces that fit together. But yeah, that was I was going to ask, what is the symbol that the autism community, the adult autism community prefer, and it's an infinity symbol. Well, I'll have to look into that, definitely,
Yeah,
because
it just looks like a
I
number
don't
five.
want, because as an advocate, I don't want what anything that I'm putting out there to be offensive to who I'm advocating for. I know my
I
son
mean,
probably
to be
doesn't
fair,
care about the puzzle piece at all. He doesn't care one way or the other.
right. That's another thing. I was going to say, to be fair, before I became a part of the autism community,
Hmm.
like really put my foot in it,
Hmm.
I used the puzzle piece because I felt like all the puzzle pieces were finally together, and I understood the puzzle piece differently. I finally was like, I put together the last piece of me, and now I'm complete. But the way the puzzle piece was intended is like, this person is missing a screw. This person is incomplete. This person, it
Mhm.
was exact opposite
It's a
of
puzzle
how I
piece
took it to
all
be.
by itself. The way that
Right.
they have the symbolization of it with Autism Speaks, and with them specifically. Now, this is not to bash Autism Speaks. Let me just put that disclaimer out there. They do a lot of good work. It's just that they do not deal, in my opinion, with adults on the spectrum and what happens to them and their caregivers and who's involved in their lives. Because, as I said at the beginning, children with autism become adults with autism. Autism does not end at age 18. It has,
Lifelong.
it,
Lifelong.
it's lifelong. It's a lifelong disability or different ability, however which way you want to call it. But
Yeah.
everyone is different. But the society that we live in has to figure out where to stick everyone.
Absolutely. And I think what is miserable about being autistic is that nobody knows where to stick you.
No,
And
that's why
you,
it's a spectrum, because and it's
right.
like, and they just finally widened it, and because you have all of these adults who are coming out saying that they're on the spectrum, now they're starting to look at it differently. I'm like, don't try to close up those guidelines again, because they kept trying to squeeze it so that they could kick certain people out of getting resources.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. America is founded on, palm colored supremacy. And so many things are about keeping people of color, specifically our people,
Mhm.
away from resources. And so they'll do what they can and define things how they can. It's just like gerrymandering and redlining, when you want to make sure this person can't run for that office because then these black people will run. You just redline their community, do a little gerrymandering, make a community that doesn't make sense and call that their district, and then now these people can't run, and you can keep the crazy Tennessee local governance the way that it is. And that happens with autism as well. Unfortunately, it becomes really political. It becomes really political. People are able to understand that Barron Trump is autistic.
They don't even want to. It's like I keep saying, I was like, is that boy autistic? Is that why they don't want us to see anything? Because, like, at
Yep.
the very beginning of the one thing that I found was very interesting back when Trump was president is that he did look at some things in and around autism, but then he backed off, and I don't know if it was because he didn't want people to know what was going on with his son. Because I'm still saying, Baron, are you okay, honey? Where are you? Because we haven't seen you. We didn't
Barron
see. We
is
barely saw you when they were in the White House.
Barron is so tall. He's like 6'7". He's so handsome. He's so well mannered. And autism makes you honest. So
Mhm.
when you're autistic around a bunch of crooked people, you end up being the moral standard. And that can't sit too well with the kind of family that he comes from.
Yeah.
So you almost want to hide him because we can be inappropriate with when and where we tell the truth. We might end up, you see autistic people go viral on the internet because they grabbed the microphone at a funeral and told the truth.
Yeah, they're trying to and they're speculating that people have speculated, and Beehive, don't come for me.
Oh,
that
Beyonce's
sir
absolutely
that
autistic.
sir has autism.
Beyonce's autistic. Sir's
Yeah.
autistic. Rumi's autistic. Michael Jackson's autistic. Jay-Z displays
Yeah,
traits of autism.
when her younger daughter was at the concert and had the headphones on, I'm like, she has headphones on at the Why does she have headphones on at
Just like
the
DJ
time?
Khaled's son. DJ Khaled's son, you never see him without the big headphones. Drake's son, you never see him without the big headphones, because, and we know that because our ears, our whole bodies are finely tuned instruments. Autistic people just feel more
Yep.
to a third power. So when something is loud for you, it's unbearable for us. It's way more than loud.
Yep.
When something tastes bad to you, it's so bad to us we want to throw up. If
Yep.
something makes you
Hey,
uncomfortable,
Byron.
we're hurt by that same thing. Um, I've seen people move autistic kids around and they're like, "Ow!" I'm like, "Boy, I barely touched you," and I'm like, "I know you didn't barely touch him, but his skin,
But they
he's
felt
sensitive."
it. It was, and see, the thing is that that's something that I have, come to figure is that my son doesn't feel pain the same way as I feel it. Something that should should be hurting him. He has a higher tolerance
Mm-hmm.
for pain, but that's not a good thing because something could be going on, and so he's hiding it because
Exactly.
he don't want you to see it.
I have that. I have that high tolerance for pain to the point where I don't know that something's wrong with me. Um, Sometimes I'll forget to feed myself because I forget that I'm hungry. I'll lose myself in my body signals, and then I'll start trembling and shaking. And I'm like, "What's going wrong?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I'm hungry." And I didn't catch the signal. When I was a little kid, grown men used to play fight me all the time when I was a little girl, because no matter how they threw me around and knocked me around,
Inappropriate.
I just, I didn't cry. And people thought it was the most entertaining thing ever. I had a cousin who was in the army, and he would come, whenever he was stationed near us, he would show us what he learned in PT using me as a demonstration dummy. And nobody else, all the older kids didn't want to play. He's like, "Come on, Chocolate, let's go. Let me show you guys this leg hold and this and this that." And I just wasn't feeling the pain the way that I should. I had a snow fight in college. I'll never forget it because this 19-year-old boy was crying. We had a snow fight and I had a busted lip and a bloody nose. And I kept fighting because I didn't notice, DC. I did not notice. And so this boy named Cameron, he was like, "Get off her, dog. Get up. Get up." And I was just like, "Why did you stop it?" I was about to get him. I was in, I slipped on the ice, and we're in at our university. So we're in the quad, or in Red Square, and we're having this snow fight. And I'm thinking I'm tearing up these boys. And all the other girls are barely playing. And at the end of the game, they're like, "We don't have respect for none of y'all but Chocolate. Ain't nobody out here but Chocolate." And I didn't I didn't know that I was down so bad.
Mm.
I didn't know that I had a bloody nose and a busted lip, but I did. I felt nothing, DC. I felt nothing.
See, and that's the thing. Like he has a high tolerance, for certain things. I'm like, I know you feel that, but you acting like you feel nothing. You feel nothing, But let it
Yeah.
be a needle for a shot or to draw some blood. It takes several people to hold him still, for medical
Yeah.
stuff. He
Yeah.
doesn't like that. He doesn't like people. He don't like people looking in his mouth. He don't like them looking in his ears. He don't want you to touch him with none of that stuff. It's just, but I have to
All
do it at
that's
least
pretty
once a
sensitive.
year.
I when I was a small kid, they tried to put hot sauce on my fingers because I self-soothed by sucking my two middle fingers, the ring finger and the middle finger.
Hmm.
And so they poured hot sauce on my hands, expecting me to have an aversion. And I just sucked it right off. And from that point on, there was this fascination. Like, what is too hot for Chocolate? Like, what can we give her for her to say uncle? And so my mom had this boyfriend, and it wasn't a problem for me because I thought the food was freaking delicious. But
Mm-hmm.
he would bring me wings from a place where people would compete for how, like, what
For the
level,
hot
like,
food.
exactly. And like stuff that would make grown men cry, they would
Would
bring to
make you
me, and
cry.
they wouldn't tell me nothing. They just be like everybody would get quiet, and they're like, "Oh, chocolate, we brought you some wings," and I'm tearing them up, and I'm losing myself in my enjoyment because I'm tearing them up. And then I look up, I got a greasy face, and everyone is staring,
And
and
your
they're
and
like,
your and your
and
mouth
they're
is
like,
on fire.
my mouth is on fire, but it tastes so good. I can't stop
Yeah,
myself.
my son likes hot food too.
And they're like, how can you stand that? I watched a 240-pound man choke and blah, blah, and you're just eating it like it's nothing. And I'm like, where'd you get these? These are awesome. So there's this kind of thing where you're like a freak of nature with how autism can wire your body. And sometimes people become fascinated and they kind of treat you like an animal.
So I don't. I would say I think of being a writer would probably be a good thing for you. Write. Write a book.
You know what? I wrote a 900-page book for my, excuse me, it was 600 pages by the time that I was in the first draft. But I said 900 pages because I had like all kind of character development. It was his life story.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost it.
Uh,
He lost it. He didn't save it. And his laptop that I did the work on, it broke and he couldn't retrieve it. So I was just like, you know what?
Write a new one. Write a new one.
Yeah, it's something that I can do, but it's also a daunting kind of task to like stick with.
No, yeah, and that's why I'm saying just start writing. I would start with a short story.
I could do that.
Yeah,
I
start
could
with
I could
short
do that in one
stories.
sitting.
Hmm. Start with short stories because that's something that you can kind of do on your own. You don't need anyone else, input on it. And, you know, I would just start doing them and start trying to publish. That's what I
That's
would do.
that's definitely a goal of mine.
Mhm.
Oh,
So now we didn't really talk that much about your um your the sector that you're in now on YouTube because it's more of the reality TV sector. So tell me how that is how that sector is because you say that they honor that you fit in over there. So talk about how that sector is. For those of us who kind of stay in the clouds when we come over there.
the the reason I can be honored in the sector that I'm in, and I don't mean honored like somebody with a 40,000
No,
size
no. I
platform,
just mean that
but
I just because I'm watching how your channel is just it's organically growing.
yeah. And so that is partly due to my autism, because with autism, you become very thorough. You are very sensitive to detail, and you see things that other people don't pick up on. So when I start doing a deep dive on a certain episode or comparing things from season 1 to season 3, people are like, I didn't even see that. That's crazy. How did you notice that? Oh my God, I'm sharing this video. I can't believe look at this. And sometimes I break open a thing that I didn't even know nobody noticed. But
Hmm.
because I'm catching these subtleties in this show that people are watching, it can be very entertaining for them to hear it from basically an autistic lens,
Hmm.
because I'm catching everything. I'm catching all of the things because I can't help it. Whereas somebody else might do a review and it's a little bit lackluster because they kind of just repeated to you what was seen on the show. But I'm just like, rewind this, press slow mo. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Do you see it? Do you see it? I'm going to slow it down for you. Do you see it? Do you see it? Now,
Hmm.
at that moment, it was this and it was this, and the camera was cut, and this happened. And they're like, oh my gosh. It's like seeing the show from a new lens, basically. The same thing from a different angle. You know how like there's the front camera angle, the side angle, the back angle. I end up contributing several angles,
Now, I
and that's
know that
entertaining.
just recently you went off on a hush hush
I
trip
did.
that was connected to the show that you talk about. Tell me how you were able to pull that off.
Do you mean when I went to Huntsville?
Uh-huh.
Honestly, that was difficult. I I went to Huntsville for Stand Up Live with Carlos King and the star of Love and Marriage Huntsville, which is Melody Cherie Rogers.
Right.
And as an autistic person, that was really difficult for me. And I absolutely did have a moment of burnout um, that affected the trip. So I knew that traveling would beat me up. So I planned my trip for 5 days. Most of the people who went, they only planned their trip for 2 or 3 days. I was there for 5 days in Huntsville um, because now that I have a diagnosis, I know how to treat myself. And that's
Right.
one of the most empowering things about having a diagnosis is that I know how to treat myself and
Mhm.
I know how to give me what I need. And I can almost spot, the things coming. I see the patterns. Part of autism is having heavy pattern recognition. And so I'm like, I already know when I hop off this plane, I ain't going to be able to move. Because, I flew to her over
Mhm.
black ice. Black
Oh, wow.
ice.
Wow.
Black ice. I mean, will unalive you. Ice. So I went to the show, absolutely overstimulated. I absolutely got, I'm really tall. I have a bra size 8. I'm a curvy woman. So the table behind me, it was a family with one man. He was married, and the women were talking at me the whole, not the whole night, but most of the night, finding issues with me, trying to find ways to argue. Um, I did what I had to do, but
Yeah, I know
basically
you did.
I was in, I was invited because I sort of kind of can't be intimidated. At least not by. I mean, all these women were really short, and so I was just like, by the time I get a hold of one or two of you, the rest of you are gonna beg me to let go of her. Like I said, I grew up getting tossed around by grown men, so that makes me a certain kind of fighter
Yep.
innately. Um, so basically, there was a stand up live event, and then there was an after party that I was giving an exclusive ticket to. So everybody could get tickets at one point, and then the tickets ran out. But because I went to Melody Cherie and I said I didn't get my ticket, she kept putting out 3 different times. She kept putting out tickets for me to get specifically. But because of that experience with those women, I
Mhm.
experienced burnout. And so I did not go to the after party. Everybody took pictures with Mel. They had, one-on-ones. She was calling everybody at my table. She called by name. She knew all of us. Just a really genuine,
Wow.
very Christian woman. Even there was a guy named Terrell. He was not a content creator at the time, but she was like, I see you, Prince Terrell, Mr. Palace Prince. He's always on Queen Sheba's channel, Queen Sheba Darling. But I absolutely missed the after party because holding myself together from becoming, because with autism comes rage.
Mhm.
There is rage. And Amanda Sills
Yeah,
talked very
because it took
briefly
you
about
a
that.
minute to process what they said, and then once you processed it, you were mad.
Once I figure out the context of why people are picking with me, I'm pissed because from dealing with me for years,
Mhm.
I don't do nothing to nobody. I do nothing to nobody, but by the time you've done me something, I want to stump out your light. Just because I know that you tried me when I did nothing to you, or there was a mistake. Like let's say autistic people have boundary issues. So if I talk too long with this guy, it's like you're flirting. I'm just like, he just wouldn't get off the phone, sis. Like I was trying to be nice. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was gonna look like that. um, but I ended up missing out because to hold my energy and being a responsible adult. Like to not just turn around and pick up my chair and swipe it over everybody, it made me tired.
Yep. It's like no, I don't want to go to jail tonight, so let me
I ain't
leave.
going to jail in Huntsville. My mama can't get here. Ain't nobody finna bail me out. I'm finna mind my black ass business and,
Yeah,
and
that's
call
like
it a night.
it's like no, I don't want to go to jail tonight. Let me go.
But you know what's crazy? When I walked in to Stand Up Live, immediately
Hmm.
someone came up to me and they're like, "Oh, you must be with Mel." And I'm like, "What would make you think that?" I didn't say that to her, but I was like, "No, I'm not." But because of the way that I look,
Hmm.
they think I must have something to do with television or production. And I'm just like,
Right.
I'm a simple ass autistic woman just coming here to support somebody. I have no idea what's going on. So I walk in and I'm about 6'3" in my high heels.
Yep.
So I cannot help but turn these heads because I'm not as thin as I'd like to be. You know, I'd like to be DC Purple Diva out here in these streets.
Child, no, you don't want to be this. Oh, I'm
Yes,
trying to
yeah,
gain some.
I
I'm
love
trying to
skinny.
gain some weight.
I love skinny. You know, I wanted to be a model growing up. I love me some skinny. But I think it's elegant looking, you know. I had low self-esteem because I thought I looked like a stripper. You know, I was
No,
overdeveloped to me.
everyone is not meant to be a size two. Not even me. Okay, I'm not even a size two. I like, you know, nobody's that small naturally without doing something to stay that now. So
I hear
we
you.
all,
I think,
yes.
aren't you like a six to eight?
I'm somewhere in, yeah, between a 6 and an 8, but I used to be a 10. I'm trying to get back to a 10.
Oh
I'm
Lord,
trying to get back to a 10.
I
I
loved
can
being
I
a
can I
size
can
eight.
handle a 10. Yeah, a 6 to 8 is too small. I need to be a little bit bigger.
I enjoyed my time as a size eight because now
Yeah.
me and these double
I
digit
I need
numbers,
like
sometimes I'm like,
I need like 15 pounds in the right place. I need it to go somewhere specific.
somewhere specific where that
Yeah,
happiness
I don't need it
goes.
to just go wherever it wants to go. No, but so now, because we've been up here for like, ooh, like almost hour and 45 minutes. But is there anything else that you wanted to say in regards to you know how you feel about being a woman of color on the spectrum?
I I have feelings that are very controversial in the autism community. Um, but I kind of feel like autism is my superpower. I feel like it makes me special. I feel like it makes me unique, and I feel like it's the root of what makes me a good person.
Hmm.
Um, in so many situations, you're expected to be a sociopath. That's all professionalism is being a
Hmm.
sociopath, acting like nothing affects you, acting, not concerned about anything but the work, not the humanity, not the compassion, not the empathy, just the work. And I'm not that person.
Hmm.
uh, I get in the way of people being bullied and attacked. I fight for social justice issues. I inconvenience myself for the betterment of other people. And
Hmm.
I owe that level of compassion to autism. I owe that depth of spirituality and emotion to autism. I would not have that if I was a neurotypical. When I was a super religious Muslim, and even when I was a super religious Christian,
Hmm.
people would beeline to me for prayer because they're like, this girl is connected and it's clear.
Hmm.
Um, I think these things are very, very beautiful. I really do. And I value these qualities in other people. So it's objective beauty to me. Um, I kind of, I love being autistic. It's just the way that the world treats you
Yeah.
makes you, gives you the hated experience. But I don't necessarily want to change me. I would just want to change how people understand and perceive me.
Yeah. And I think that that's I my personal opinion is I think that there's a lot more people who are walking around with undiagnosed autism than that there's just a lot of people who are walking around undiagnosed with autism
I see it all
because
the time.
because of just what you see. And again, especially uh, you know, uh, not that I, want to skew the numbers, but I just think that it's not realistic that autism affects more males than females when there's less males in the world than there are females.
Absolutely. I share that opinion. I think in reality, even though I don't have the statistics to back me up, I think in
Yeah.
reality there are more autistic women than men. Hands down. It's just women are typically neglected, and men oftentimes value autism in women. They make all kind of movies about a manic pixie dream girls, and she has the mind of a child and the body of a siren, and she's ditzy and she likes to spin around in the rain, and she's simple and all she wants to do is cook and clean and do her little special hobby. And they're like, oh, this is great. And they punish women who are intelligent, and they call them masculine when they want to achieve and they want to conquer and they want to XYZ. There are some of
Yeah.
these traits, these infantilized traits that men, due to sexism and misogyny, they value, like shut up and cook. And sometimes autistic women, they don't want to talk to anybody. They're like, I don't want to see your mom, I don't want to meet your family, I like to cook and I like to cuddle. And
One
that's just
one thing that I find interesting is that a lot of people, when they go into the service, they get diagnosed.
hmm hmm
They get diagnosed. It's like, you know, I'm like, but it's not, but they still let them in. It's just like, and those are the ones who are undiagnosed because generally, if someone has has the diagnosis already, they never even go into the service. They
yeah.
register for the draft if they're a male, but they don't necessarily go in. But like the guy who was one of the producers for MC Hammer, his name is Mike. I can't remember his last name is Buckholz. He found out that he had autism when he was in the Navy. And ironically, that's where he met MC Hammer. That's when they became friends.
Wow, no wonder Hammer could beat everybody up. MC Hammer, that's a strong man. These Navy, no joke. I
Yeah.
follow a woman on TikTok who joined the army, and that's how she got kicked out. She was diagnosed with autism in the army.
There was one. I don't know if she's on TikTok or if she's on YouTube, but there's one who's trying to keep her diagnosis hidden because she's afraid that she'll get kicked out.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know who that is.
And this was a black woman on the
Yeah.
spectrum.
Uh,
And she's got kids on the spectrum as well.
yeah. Both of the people that I'm talking about are both black women, and they both have kids, and they have kids on the spectrum. One of the
Mhm.
black women that I follow, the hardest, is an undiagnosed autistic woman. She has zero diagnosis, and yet she's a powerful voice in the autism community because self-diagnosis is acceptable. The reason she won't get diagnosed because she's like, if me and my husband fall out, he can take my kids from me.
That's the one I follow. That's her. That's the one
Yep.
I'm talking about. That's the one I'm talking about. She doesn't want an official diagnosis
Yep.
because she's afraid she'll lose her kids.
Yep. But everybody autistic knows she's autistic. I think autistic people should be used to diagnose autism because we
Yeah.
feel it somehow. Even without all the DSM criteria, we just kind of see somebody and we're just like, oh man, you're really freaking out about having on wet socks, aren't you?
Yeah, she said.
You got a texture aversion.
Yeah, she said she's undiagnosed, but and she doesn't want an official diagnosis. She doesn't want it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it can hurt you. There are ways that it can hurt you. She was like, I don't need no money from the government. I make money, so we good off that. Whereas with me, I'm like, I can't keep a job, child. I might need some help. I mean, I don't get any kind of like SSI or anything like that, but I'm like, in the event that I need something, or even if I
Yeah.
decide to return to the workforce, I absolutely have to be accommodated, DC. Like
Well,
there's no
that's
other way for me to
part of
do
the
it.
reason why I think that it's now that have to they have to ask. They have to ask the question. You don't have The person doesn't have to say that they have autism, but jobs have to allow them to declare that they are autistic if they choose to, that they have autism. It's like a whole list of things on there that, I mean, including mental health things, heart disease, all kinds of different things that they're asking as to whether people suffer from or will suffer from in the future. Like, how do you know
Right.
what you're
How do
going to
you
suffer
know?
from in the future? What are you talking about in the
How do you
future?
know?
But yeah, no, but that was something that I noticed, that within the last 10 years, they're starting to I'm starting to see it. I'm seeing it on it, well, even now, especially, it's part of the application process. They have it just like you. They have you disclose or not disclose your ethnicity. They have disabilities in there, and autism is one of them. And it didn't used to be in there. They have autism, ADHD is in there as well. They separate them. They don't put them as the same thing because they're not the same thing. But you can have ADHD and be autistic.
Yeah, there's a little hashtag. It's ADHD for
Mhm.
autism and ADHD combined.
Yeah.
I thought I had that. I mean, sometimes I still think I'm
Well,
ADHD.
that's the thing that is that a lot of people, well, because I know my son has ADHD too.
Hmm.
Um, uh, when even as when he was going through getting to the autism diagnosis, they put him under pervasive something disorder, some other thing that they could get funding for until they could put until they could have him under autism, you know.
Wow.
But ADHD, I see a lot of people with, at least some of the kids that my son went to school with. That's why they have them on the meds. It's not the actually autism. It's the ADHD.
Right. Absolutely. And it's all over the place. When I got tested, I had already been diagnosed with ADHD, but when I got tested for autism, they tested me for a whole everything. And they were like, girl, you do not have an ADHD profile. Who told you that? And I was like, whoa, I don't. They're like, your focus is intense. Who told you that? And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
ADHD. And see, that's the thing with some autism. Like, there's certain things my son is focused on because that's what he's interested in. If he's not interested in it, he's zero attention,
And
zero
that's what I
attention.
said. That's exactly what I said to the person. I'm like, when I'm going through burnout or something, because I'm emotional, uh that's when the ADHD like symptoms show up. Autistic meltdowns and overstimulation can look like everything, can look like PTSD, CPTSD, depression, anxiety. It can look like
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yep. Well, Miss Uppity, I appreciate you coming on here and having a conversation with me and being my live autism spotlight, because in the past I've put spotlights on people in the autism community, blacks with autism, but I'm like, well, let me get someone who I actually know who just got a diagnosis. So this is new to you, but I know that you've already been doing your own research because you had to do all of your research in order to get the proper diagnosis
Yep.
for yourself. And I figured now that you have the diagnosis, you would clearer understand what's going on with yourself and why things have gone on with you in the past.
Absolutely. The diagnosis is a mercy to me, honestly. I'm grateful for it. I thank God for it. People wanted me to be upset about it. I felt blessed. I felt honored because
It
it
answered a question for you.
it's like somebody telling you where you came from after being orphaned and not knowing your parents and not knowing your home country, language, anything, and somebody telling you, oh, by the way, this is who you are. It was very powerful for me. um I learned how to treat myself. And I used to be very abusive to myself because I saw myself, I believe what people told me about me. And that's why you get, well, me and other autistics get so many, ideas to just stop living.
Yeah.
And I
It's
got a new perspective on me. And I'm just like, I treat me very delicately now. Ooh, it's nice. I be taking milk baths. It's candles and incense. It's low lighting. I treat me good now. I have so much to make up for and to apologize to myself and to forgive myself for.
hmm
And I love having that freedom. That freedom. I love me more with my diagnosis.
that is very good. Well, I'm going to put Uppity's channel in the description of this video so you guys can go take a look at her channel. Please go and support Uppity Unicorn. I think you will like her content. She does have other content that she does besides Huntville, y'all. You just need to go over there and look through her videos and you will find it.
Yeah.
She has she has been across the spectrum in topics that she's been passionate about on her channel. So you will find that she is a highly intelligent woman.
Thank you, DC.
So I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys in the chat. Uppity, you can stay up here, until we get off. But you guys, thank you so much. I am gonna be coming back live more often. But I figured, what better way to come back live than doing an interview with Up the Unicorn for Autism Awareness Month, you guys. I will see you guys in the next one, and I am going to be uploading some more autism content this week, so be on the lookout for that. I will see you guys. Peace and blessings from the West Side. I'll see you guys. Peace. Let me get the outro for y'all because y'all know I'm on something different. Oh, I think I lost Uppity. That's fine. She has the link. She can come back if she wants. Let me just do this. Sorry, y'all. All right, I will see y'all. I'm out. Bye.